Kevin Costner risked everything for his dream project. He mortgaged his beach house and poured $38 million of his own money into it, despite his accountant begging him not to. The first installment bombed, earning less than he invested, and now he's scrambling to fund the rest. He's selling assets, moving money around, and, according to friends, surviving on a wing and a prayer. This isn't just a career gamble, it's become a personal nightmare. Costner's journey began humbly in 1955, in Linwood, California. His father dug ditches and worked as a utility worker, while his mother was in welfare services. A family tragedy had already struck before Kevin was born. His middle brother died at birth. Raised with his older brother Dan in a Baptist household of mixed German, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, English, and Cherokee heritage, Costner's early life was far from glamorous. Constant moves due to his father's job made him the perpetual new kid in towns like Compton, Ventura, and Visalia. Shy and unsure, he found refuge in music, poetry, and daydreams, singing in the church choir and secretly writing poems. But something clicked when, at age 7, he saw the movie How the West Was Won. The open frontier and raw emotion stirred something deep inside him, a seed that would later blossom into a love for storytelling. Small and self-conscious in high school, just 5 feet 2 inches at graduation, he worried he'd never grow. His mother reassured him, and sure enough, he shot up 11 inches in a few years, eventually reaching 6 feet 1 inch. That rare catch-up growth didn't just change his body, it boosted his spirit. Tough and determined, he played football, basketball, and baseball, holding his own among bigger athletes. After high school in 1973, he did something bold. Obsessed with the Lewis and Clark expedition, he built a canoe by hand and traced part of their route, alone. Reading Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee under the stars broke something open in him. Night after night, he wept at the harsh truths of Native American history. That solo trip changed his worldview and shaped the stories he would later tell, especially in Dances with Wolves. In 1978, fresh from his honeymoon flight from Mexico, fate put Richard Burton, the legendary actor, on the same plane. Costner, shy but determined, introduced himself and quietly confessed his dream to act. Burton simply said, "You have green eyes. I have green eyes. I think you'll be fine," then wished him luck as his limo pulled up beside the couple waiting for the shuttle. That surreal moment lit a fire in Kevin. He quit his marketing job a month later, took acting classes at night, and worked odd jobs, from truck driving to boat work and giving celebrity home tours, to survive. Broke and unknown, he landed a role in a cheap film called Sizzle Beach, USA, which he later regretted deeply. It featured soft-core scenes that clashed with his values, and he vowed never to take a job like that again, even if it meant waiting years for something better. And he did wait. 6 years of near invisibility, barely scraping by. His big break in The Big Chill got cut entirely, except for a brief shot of his lifeless body. It should have launched him, instead, it nearly broke him. But he kept grinding, tiny parts in commercials and forgettable films, feeling like a ghost in Hollywood. Then, a call came from Lawrence Kasdan, the same director who had cut him from The Big Chill. Out of guilt and respect for Costner's talent, Kasdan gave him a role in Silverado. That part changed everything. Costner finally got noticed. From there, doors opened. The Untouchables in 1987, where he starred opposite De Niro and Sean Connery, Bull Durham, where he convinced the director he could play real baseball, and Field of Dreams, with its haunting, "If you build it, he will come." Each film added to his legend. In 1990, Costner launched his production company, TIG Productions, and bet it all on Dances with Wolves. Studios called it too long, too strange, too full of Lakota language, but he refused to compromise. He invested millions of his own money, learned Lakota for 9 months, and brought in Doris Leader Charge to translate and coach the cast. Despite criticisms, like some actors using the feminine form of Lakota, the film made history. It won 7 Oscars, including Best Director and Best Picture, beating out Goodfellas. Kevin stood on that Oscar stage, admitting even he hadn't trusted himself, but the results were undeniable. It was the first Western to win Best Picture in 60 years. He didn't stop. Right after Dances with Wolves, he jumped into Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, doing his own stunts and even launching himself over a 10-meter wall with a calculated catapult. Filming was chaotic. Planes from Heathrow ruined takes, stuntmen offered mushrooms, and Costner laughed through it all. Then came JFK, where he played Jim Garrison in a fiercely debated film. Kevin Costner had become more than an actor. He was a force of will, a storyteller who refused to wait for permission. And now, decades later, he's taking that same gamble again with Horizon. Just like before, he's betting everything, not because he's reckless, but because he still believes in the power of story. Director Oliver Stone wasn't holding back when he released his controversial film JFK, which boldly suggested that a conspiracy involving the CIA, FBI, military, and even the vice president may have been behind President Kennedy's assassination. The film caused a firestorm even before its release, drawing criticism from journalists, historians, and government officials who labeled it dangerous. But Kevin Costner, who starred in the film, stood firm. He told Time magazine that simply asking such questions was liberating, adding, "Any discussion of what could be the truth can only make us freer." His goal wasn't to prove Jim Garrison, the character he played, was right, but to make audiences take the story seriously. And it worked. When the film was released in December 1991, it stirred such public interest that Congress passed a law in 1992 to declassify secret JFK assassination files. The following year, Costner made perhaps the smartest financial move of his career with The Bodyguard. Instead of taking a $10 million upfront paycheck, he chose a percentage of the profits and waited a year for Whitney Houston's schedule to clear, knowing she was perfect for the role. His bet paid off. Released the same day as Disney's Aladdin, the film grossed $16.6 million its opening weekend and eventually made $410.9 million worldwide, $21 million of that from Japan alone. Costner earned more than $20 million, possibly up to $30 million, from the box office and soundtrack royalties. Houston's iconic performance of "I Will Always Love You" drove the soundtrack to sell over 50 million copies and win Album of the Year at the Grammys. But Costner's golden streak began to fade in 1994, starting with the disaster-plagued production of Waterworld. The Hawaiian set was devastated by a hurricane, destroying a $5 million floating set and damaging the $22 million atoll set that weighed over 1,000 tons. The production became a nightmare. Crew members were injured, Costner almost died, and the budget exploded from $65 million to $175 million, with an additional $60 million spent on marketing. Nicknamed Fishtar and Kevin's Gate, it made some money later through home video, but the damage to his reputation was done. On top of that, a falling out with director Kevin Reynolds, his friend from Robin Hood, left Costner to finish the film alone. Around the same time, his 16-year marriage collapsed. Tabloids had a field day, reporting everything from his alleged vanity, including rumors about digitally adding hair, to on-set temperaments. In 1997, he directed and starred in The Postman, which bombed spectacularly and swept the Razzies, winning Worst Picture, Worst Actor, and Worst Director. Critics were no longer just disinterested, they were actively rooting for his downfall. Still, Costner didn't quit. He returned in 2003 with Open Range, an old-school western that he directed and starred in alongside Robert Duvall. The film, made for $26 million, earned over $68 million worldwide, proving Costner could still deliver. In 2007, he shocked audiences with Mr. Brooks, playing a serial killer hiding behind a perfect smile. It was one of his most chilling performances, using his wholesome image to disturb viewers. By 2012, he was winning Emmys for Hatfields and McCoys, a gritty and violent miniseries watched by over 14 million people. Though he turned down the role 3 times, when he finally accepted, he won Best Actor and reminded everyone why he had once been Hollywood royalty. In 2016, during the filming of Hidden Figures, Costner powered through kidney stone pain, acting on morphine and never missing a single day. Then came Yellowstone in 2017. Initially agreeing to just 1 season, Costner became the anchor of the series, which premiered in 2018 and grew into a cultural phenomenon. His salary ballooned from $500,000 per episode to $1.3 million by season 5, netting him over $24 million that season. But by 2023, as his passion project Horizon, an American saga demanded more of his time, conflicts arose with Yellowstone's producers. When they offered a split final season, 5A and 5B, Costner declined. His character, John Dutton, was killed off in a bathtub, first appearing as a suicide, but later revealed as a murder staged by Sarah Atwood and her hitmen. Costner admitted in an interview that he didn't even know his final episode had aired. Despite his departure, the show broke viewership records, proving its massive appeal. Meanwhile, Horizon consumed him. Costner had been writing it since 1988 and finally got backing in 2022, but only after mortgaging his 10-acre oceanfront estate in Santa Barbara and investing $38 million of his own money. The first 2 chapters of Horizon cost $100 million to produce, with Costner personally funding over a third. Chapter 1 premiered at Cannes on May 19, 2024, to mixed reviews and a disappointing $38.7 million global box office, less than what Costner personally spent. Still, he pressed on. Chapter 2 premiered in Venice, Chapter 3 began filming in May 2024, and Chapter 4 is already in development. With over 170 speaking roles and stars like Sienna Miller and Sam Worthington, Horizon is anything but small. At the same time, his personal life unraveled again. His 1994 divorce from Cindy Silva cost him $80 million, and in 2023, his second wife, Christine Baumgartner, filed for divorce after 18 years of marriage. Despite a prenup, the battle was brutal and rumors swirled, from pregnancy scandals on the Yellowstone set to skipped filming schedules. By 2025, Baumgartner was engaged to a former friend of Costner's, Josh Connor, and insiders claimed Costner was ready to renegotiate their agreement. In early 2025, he started dating again, but with one rule: no Hollywood actresses. Friends said he wanted something low-key, something normal. Despite turning 70, he wasn't slowing down. On May 26, 2025, his docuseries Kevin Costner's The West was set to premiere on the History Channel. Co-produced with Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Doris Kearns Goodwin and Oscar-winning filmmakers, it aimed to tell the raw, uncomfortable truth about how the West was really won or stolen. But Costner wasn't just making films, he was building a legacy. In February 2024, he announced the launch of a massive $100 million film studio, Territory Film Studios, in Utah, covering 500 acres. Phase 1 included a 39,000-square-foot warehouse already in use for Horizon, Chapter 3, with a 20,000-square-foot soundstage and office space coming next. There's even talk of a Kevin Costner-themed restaurant. But the risk is huge. Opening weekend for Horizon, Chapter 1 brought in just $11 million. Financially, it was a disaster. He had mortgaged land, ignored his accountant's warnings, and was scrambling to stay afloat. By late 2024, sources said he was selling assets and operating on a wing and a prayer. But Costner refused to give up. At the Venice Film Festival, he summed it up simply: "The rock fell back downhill, but I have to put my hands on it again." That rock is Horizon. And for Kevin Costner, it's more than a film, it's his life's work.